Good morning, Wabash. Speaking today at Pioneer Chapel will be Artie Equihua with his talk titled, Creating Your Ideal Self. Arthur Allen Equihua Jr. is a Wabash class of 2020 graduate. A biology major and a chemistry German minor, Artie served as the president of the Sigma Chi fraternity and captain of the football team. Artie was a proud member of the GHI and Democracy Fellows, played Joseph Wykowski in the school play Biloxi Blues, and enjoyed immersion trips to Germany and Peru. He arguably peaked in his senior year and is now a washed-up graduate in his 4th year of medical school. Soon to hold the rank of lieutenant in the United States Navy, Artie is his mom's favorite son. Let's give a warm welcome to Artie.
Good morning, Wabash.
Good morning.
Man, it feels good to say that again. Well, I'm thrilled to be back on campus this morning, and even more so to be here today to share some words of wisdom. I'd like to start by expressing my gratitude to the Sphinx Club for inviting me to speak. Seems like I'm not as past my prime as I originally believed. I'd also like to thank the students for taking the time to attend, the Wabash faculty and staff for shaping me into the person I am today, my siblings, Taylor and Alex, along with my parents, Annie and Artie, for showing me the true meaning of resilience in the face of adversity. I'd also like to give a shout out to my boys, Nick Fox, Sam Hipple, and Mike Tanchevsky, also known as the Dream Team, for helping me get into medical school and making me a better person. So I've had the incredible honor of giving several speeches up here on stage. And every time I try to prepare something worth hearing, I always ask myself, who are you to try to impart any kind of wisdom on somebody else? I know plenty of Wabash men who would give a way better chapel talk than I can. They are wiser, more accomplished, and flat out funnier. But each and every time I face that writer's block, I remember this. You don't have to be an expert to be vulnerable. You just got to be real. I realized that the most memorable speeches are the ones that made me see life differently. They were the ones that helped me see life's lessons and the truths that were once blind to me. They were the speeches that gave me perspective. And they were also under 30 minutes. Which is why my goal today is to make you different from the way you walked into this chapel. My goal is to make you think about the ideas and the perspectives that I provide and to think about how they apply to you in your life right now. My goal is to get you to realize that the truth or the answers that you're looking for are all around you. You just need to put yourself in a place to recognize it. All right. So I used to play a computer game called RuneScape. Yeah. So this is back before iPhones and texting were common. In order to play with my buddy Dan, I'd actually have to call his house using my home phone. The phone that was plugged into the wall. Or I guess you guys probably don't know, because I realized you guys didn't have to do those types of things at my age. But what made RuneScape exciting was the ability to train your character in various skills like archery, fishing, sword fighting, and fire making. For instance, to become an expert in sword fighting, you would level up your character by killing chickens, cows, and goblins to gain experience points. Once you reached a certain attack level, you could then use more powerful weapons to defeat larger enemies, like giants, adamant dragons, and the occasional abyssal demon. You see, defeating these stronger enemies gave you more experience. In many video games, they share this concept of leveling up with experience points. But it wasn't until recently that I heard a soundbite on the internet comparing games like RuneScape to our lives today. So I want to ask you this. If you were to create your ideal human being in real life, what traits would you give them? How would you help them develop these traits? Well, if you wanted them to be intelligent, I would provide access to as many books as possible. If you desired patience, I would have them wait for the most coveted things. Do you see my point? The lesson here is that every desirable trait has an associated cost. Confidence comes at the price of self-doubt. One can't comprehend strength without first experiencing weakness. I enjoyed exploring this concept, and here's my perspective. Your personal growth is hindered by your inability to view your challenges in a constructive way. We need to wake up, open our eyes, and stop viewing our current struggle as a catastrophe. Instead, we need to see hardship as a ticket to becoming our ideal self. I want to focus on two traits for the rest of my speech. The first of which is humility. To instill humility in someone, I would make them feel larger than life, to only realize that they're not. I would strip away the things that they believe to define their identity, like losing a 300-pound belt. I would make them face the loss of their closest loved ones, so they understand that life's pleasures are temporary, not permanent. Life continues whether these things are in our life or not. Now, I ask you to participate in a short exercise with me, and don't worry, this exercise isn't physical. It's not a Murph, although if you're trying to get one in later, I'm down. If you don't know what a Murph is, I highly recommend you Google Navy SEAL Lieutenant Murphy workout. The exercise is this. I ask you all to please close your eyes, and I want you to think of a time when something happened to you that you did not deserve. Think of a time when something happened to you you did not deserve. You see, the first time I performed this exercise, I thought of my dad, who was recently diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma. I thought of exams I underperformed on despite waking up at 4 a.m. every day to put in additional hours of studying. I thought of football games I flat out sucked in despite having the best week of practice. Yet not once did I think of something positive, such as time with family, or being voted a football captain, or growing up in a stable household, or being here on stage today. I didn't deserve any of these things. So I want you to reflect on what you came up with. Was it negative? And I challenge you to be different here on out if it was. I have to give Captain McKinney a shout out for this next quote, because Star Trek Captain Picard once said, "It's impossible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not weakness, that is life." In other words, it doesn't matter if you don't get the highest score on the test or if you underperform in the big game. You are not always defined by the outcome, but you will always be defined by your actions. Of course, the outcome matters, but what is most important is how you approach your next endeavor. The final trait I would instill in my ideal human is resilience. You see, the price tag of resilience is fragility. One cannot understand resilience without also experiencing heartbreak and disappointment. Last year, I had a very profound conversation with a surgeon during one of my clinical rotations. We discussed at length his grieving process after losing his wife to cancer. He told me that grief doesn't get easier, we just get stronger. He explained that grief never truly leaves. There are just good days and bad days, but ultimately, one must move forward. And I've been unpacking many lessons from this conversation over the past few months. The first lesson being that on those perceived good days and bad days, we can't judge them too quickly. There's no better example of this than an insightful parable in Jay Shetty's book, Think Like a Monk. The parable is about a farmer whose horse runs away. How unlucky, his brother tells him. The farmer shrugs. Good thing, bad thing, who knows? A week later, the wayward horse finds its way home, and it's with a beautiful mare. That's amazing, his brother says, admiring the brand new horse. And again, the farmer is unmoved. Good thing, bad thing, who knows? A few days later, the farmer's son climbs up on the new mare, hoping to tame the wild beasts, and the horde bucks, rears, and the boy is hurled to the ground and breaks his leg. How unlucky, the brother says. Good thing, bad thing, who knows? The next day, the young men of the village are called into the military service, but because the son's leg is broken, he is excused from the draft. His brother tells the farmer that surely this must be the best news. Good thing, bad thing, who knows? You see, for us to remain resilient, we must not get caught up in our future, but rather focus on what we can control, which are our emotions in the present. The second lesson I took away from my conversation with the surgeon is understanding that one cannot be resilient if they're preoccupied with being happy. One of my favorite Marcus Aurelius quotes is, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." However, improving the quality of our thoughts can be quite challenging when we're continually exposed to lavish lifestyles displayed on social media. Because I don't know about you guys, but when I see people joyously traveling the world, I start to form this odd belief that if they're happy living their endless vacation, well then I must be unhappy living in Indiana. But I've never once stopped to ask myself this: why can't we both be happy? Why is it that we often perceive happiness as a limited resource? Why can't happiness be in two places at once? And I found an awesome quote that I felt summarizes this perfectly, and it goes like this: if you always think happiness is somewhere else, then it'll never be with you. So to conclude my speech, I'll say this: if I were to create my ideal human being, I would surround them with the greatest minds and the greatest mentors to inspire them and give them perspective. I would send them to Wabash College. You will learn much less from your experiences without someone guiding you. Finding mentors who can help you find meaning in your experience is the difference between you and your future self. In the same way that engaging in a discussion about a book can draw out deeper insights than simply reading in solitude, the truths you seek in life might be hiding in plain sight, just under your nose. Sometimes it takes another perspective or a simple conversation to reveal these truths that might have otherwise gone unnoticed. Which is why I'll impart one last piece of advice. And this was given to me early on in my Wabash career. You are the sum of your 5 closest friends. And I want you to think about who your 5 closest friends are and whether or not they're helping you become your ideal self. There is very little we can do to control our futures. However, by surrounding yourself with winners, you can make yourself into one too. And you're already doing so. By choosing to associate yourself with other Wabash men, you have put yourself in a rich environment to grow. Surround yourself with people who help you bring your truths to the surface. Surround yourself with people who live by principles and values you admire. For those of you lucky audience members who have yet to obtain a diploma, cherish these moments. You do not own your time here on campus. Your time here on campus is rented. And one day you're going to look back and you're going to reminisce on your time with the boys, because it doesn't last forever. So I'd like to say one last thank you to God for allowing Wabash to forge me into the man I am today, and for surrounding me with a supportive, loving family. I didn't ask for the obstacles you put in my path, but I am grateful for all of the good and the bad, and I would do it all over again if I could. To the 2023 Little Giant football team, losing that belt doesn't define your Wabash legacy. What defines your Wabash story is how you carry yourself after defeat. Will you be humble? Will you be resilient? Don't forget, there will always be one major difference between us and that school down south. That is, one has the fear of quitting on their mind, while the other is always striving to fight for another day. Cooper Sullivan said it best: I'd rather be 6 feet under than 29 miles south. Wabash always fights. Thank you.